will be about skilling. First, I will present a startup from India called Bodhami, which is a national startup award winner. And Bodhami meaning is derived from the Sanskrit word bodh and ami, which literally means I am gaining knowledge. Bodhami's unique offerings include personalized counseling and learning platforms and help students and professionals suggest the right career path and deliver a personalized learning journey for each individual. Their artificial intelligence algorithms look at the 360-degree persona of an individual and uses 2 million plus association rules to suggest the right career fitment and skill gaps fulfillment needed for recommended careers. They already have over 25,000 students, 700 teachers, and 700 counselors across 75 cities in India registered in the last 1 year. Their vision is to closely work with governments and organizations to enable personalized learning, journey, and career path for every student at the grassroots level. Over to you, Bodhami.
Hi, we are Bodhami. We are a startup based in Goa, which is into counseling and personalized learning. Did you know that more than 70% of the students don't even make informed career decisions? Also, their learning is not very personalized. We solve a unique problem of helping individuals in making informed career choices. We do this by using current skills and interest assessment and help individuals with the right career path using personalized learning journey. How do we do it? We use artificial intelligence to analyze your holistic skills using aptitude test. We understand your interest across subjects. We use persona analysis to study your personality. We understand your skill gaps by creating a personalized skill map. We use 2 million artificial intelligence rules to map you to the best suited careers and streams. We chalk out a personalized learning journey to address the skill gaps which you have to take you to the target career. Our artificial intelligence career and learning reports have been developed with best neuroscience and AI experts. Our tests are in 4 regional languages. Within a year of formation, more than 25,000 students have used Bodhami's career platform. We have driven Goa government's program where more than 250 schools were covered. Bodhami has trained and enabled 700 plus teachers. 500 plus career counselors have used our career framework. We are National Startup Award 2020 winners. Come, join us at Bodhami.
Thank you, Bodhami. I'm enlightened. And now, to get us further enlightenment, we have, it's a real pleasure to introduce Johan Westring. He's the president for EF Education First. And I can also tell you, he's a real yoga enthusiast and a yogi. So, Johan, you will now present the India-Sweden Business Leaders Roundtable on skilling. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Namaskar, Excellencies, dear friends of India and Sweden. My name is CJ Westring, and it's my distinct honor to be moderating this next panel on skilling. Skilling is such a critical topic, as in fact all of the other topics we're discussing today during the India-Sweden Innovation Day have skilling as a foundation. And before I introduce our distinguished panel, let me first set the context of this topic on a global scale. Even before the pandemic, governments and companies around the world were struggling with upskilling and reskilling. Governments were trying to find meaningful ways of upskilling and reskilling the youth and the unemployed of the world. And companies entering into Industry 4.0 were thinking how they could upskill and reskill their staff in order to remain competitive. It has become a do or die topic for even CEOs and chairmen of the board. And then entered the COVID crisis. Billions of hours of education have been lost in the educational systems around the world. And obviously, it hasn't become easier for governments and for companies to upskill and reskill their staff. At the same time, a lot of things have happened in digitization. In fact, some claim that more has happened in the last 10 months than in the last 10 years when it comes to innovations in edtech and reskilling and upskilling. Here today to discuss what we can do in terms of upskilling and reskilling, both as nations individually in Sweden and India, and in the bilateral collaboration between our two countries, we have a panel of truly distinguished experts in the field. First up, Peje Emilsson, the founder and chairman of Kunskapsskolan Education, co-chair for skilling in the India-Sweden Business Leaders Roundtable. Peje, for those of you who don't know him, he's an extraordinary visionary entrepreneur and thought leader in the skilling space, and he's probably the senior Swedish executive with most visits to India in the last couple of decades. And he's definitely the one who has shaken hands with Prime Minister Modi the longest. Then we are joined by Vandana Bhatnagar, Chief Program Officer of the National Skill Development Corporation. Vandana is the mastermind behind the disruptive skilling programs at NSDC, tasked with the monumental challenge to close the skills gap in India. With persistence and creativity, Vandana and the team at NSDC have already successfully trained over 2 million individuals across various sectors in India, and they are just getting started. Sarbajit, Executive Vice President Europe for Larsen and Toubro. Larsen and Toubro was started by Scandinavians in India some 80 years ago, and Sarbajit has boomeranged back from India to Scandinavia to head up the European operations. With 120,000 staff and 250,000 contractors, the skilling needs within L&T are vast. But Sarbajit, obsessed about learning himself, does not stop there. He's on a mission to upskill 3.5 million engineering students in India. And then finally, Joel Hellermark, founder and CEO of Sana Labs. Joel is a true visionary and is about to disrupt the way we learn and how we measure learning. Sana Labs is one of Sweden's and the world's most exciting edtech companies, with a mission to apply breakthroughs in machine learning to make personalized learning available to everyone, everywhere. Sana Labs have already proven themselves during the pandemic by upskilling almost 100,000 nurses to fight the pandemic. Now, each panelist will get a few minutes for their introductory remarks, and we will then engage in a Q&A about this critical topic and share our perspectives on the panel. The panelists will also be given an opportunity to provide a short closing remark, and then I will provide a short summary and conclusion. And I thought we would start with Peje. With your lifelong experience of education and skilling, both in Sweden and India, and in many other countries of the world, I thought it would be great if you could kick us off and share your perspectives. And please also for our audience, if you could say a few words about Kunskapsskolan and the vocational training you're engaged in India, that would be great.
Thank you very much, CJ, and very pleased to be here. I started Kunskapsskolan 20 years ago with the idea that you could give personalized education. Education has traditionally been very old-fashioned. New technology you bring in and you get a more efficient education through our model. So we started in Gurugram 2013 in K-12, and now we have got 5 schools in India with about 4,000 students. But then we took 2008 in a close cooperation with National Skill Development Corporation. We discussed how to take our methodology into vocational training. And we did an agreement with the government in Haryana to help to skill up to 30,000 students in 100 schools, where we are working in IT, health and beauty, retail, and also expanded to healthcare. It's a fascinating project where we get support from various corporations like Sony, Honda, Orient Electric, and National Skill Development Corporation. So we get very efficient use of CSR money in providing efficient vocational training for young people. Our model has shown during the pandemic that the combination of using modern technology and teachers is quite efficient. And we are now looking at, in our discussions with National Skill Development Corporation, to take some leap steps. Now we are talking about thousands of schools and hundreds of thousands of students instead. I should also mention that I am an advisor to the UNESCO Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Peace and Education. So I've been working closely with them and with UNESCO for the last years to see how we could get modern ways of skilling. And I'm very impressed with many things I've seen in India. I should tell you actually that the development technology that we are using now in Kunskapsskolan, which at present has got about 30,000 students in 5 countries, half of them Sweden, development that's being done in India. So we are learning lots from the smart way of Indian technology in implementing also in our schools in Sweden, Holland, Saudi Arabia, United States, and the UK. So now we have become a knowledge partner for the National Skill Development Corporation, and I'm saying the same as you said from the beginning. The COVID-19 has meant that we have taken fairly dramatic steps forward in implementing new smart technology. And when you look at the program in India, the new education policy, and you talk about the 0.5 vocational education and 7 technology education, I think we are completely in the center of that. How do we combine smart technology in developing more efficient vocational training in lots of various specific fields? So very much looking forward to the time when we can come back and meet physically and make sure that we speed up the further development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peje, for those introductory remarks. Over to you, Vandana. Since the theme of this event today is sustainable solutions in a new normal, we would appreciate if you could briefly elaborate on some of the great work that NSDC has done on skilling to support sustainability. For instance, your work in renewable energy, sustainable agricultural practices, access to water and sanitation, health sector inclusivity, and more. Over to you, Vandana.
Thanks, Carl, and it's a pleasure to be here at this event. NSDC has had a very, very favorable interaction with a lot of Swedish counterparts, and we are looking forward to taking a lot of those interactions forward further. And Kedman, or rather the arm of Kunskapsskolan in India, Kedman, has been also a very, very constructive partnership that we have had. But just to give a quick overview on what NSDC is doing for those who might not be familiar, we are a public-private partnership, and we were set up about 10 years back. And the primary objective of NSDC is to really bring the private sector into contact and to engage with them in the skilling ecosystem, in the skilling space. And we have had very, very successful involvement of the private sector in expanding the capacity for skilling in India. So currently we have a capacity of about 2 million short-term training to be taking place in the country in our market-based model, another 2 million under the government programs. So we have close to 5 million training capacity per annum in our ecosystem through about 700 training partners. And these are largely all private entities. So really we are leveraging the best of the private sector in addressing this extremely important agenda. In our entire endeavor over the last 10 years, the aim, of course, was first and foremost was to address the requirements of industry for skilled manpower and to provide livelihood opportunities to the people who were entering the workforce and also to upskill those who were already there. But as we have been working in the last few years, a lot of our effort has also gone towards supporting very many of the government programs and other social sector programs which have been critical to India's development trajectory. So in that context, I would say that, a lot of our work is supporting what is there in the SDGs. And at many a time, I've said that SDGs 4 and 8 are not the only ones really for skilling, but right from 1 to 12, all the SDGs have, I think, skilling embedded in them. And as part of our efforts, we worked on supporting the government's program on solar energy, on renewable energy. Close to 40,000 people have been trained on various job roles to bring the last mile capacities for things like solar rooftop installations and the PV installations which take place, solar lighting systems. Now the government, of course, has started the water connections for households right up to the household level. And prior to that, we had the sanitation program, the Swachh Bharat program. And all of these require a lot of capacity building and skilling interventions to enable these programs to get rolled out seamlessly. Recently, we had the Ayushman Bharat program, which is the world's largest health insurance program. And to support that itself, a very, very significant effort was underway to skill people to provide that last mile connectivity and interventions to support those program requirements. So we have had, close to 50,000 people trained in various roles which are supporting the sustainability agenda. We have had 30,000 people trained who have had, these are people with disabilities. 50% of our trainees in the government programs are women. 40% of our trainings which take place in the government programs are people coming from marginalized communities. So these are really the interventions aiming to provide a huge impetus to the sustainability mandate that the government has, and that is critical for our country. I mean, we are at an early stage of development in a sense, and these are the interventions which we are taking forward. In some of these, we've had also very constructive partnerships with companies from Sweden. We've had ABB and IKEA Foundation, Volvo. They have partnered with our sector skill councils, with the IT Sector Skill Council, the Automotive Sector Skill Council, to create programs which are contributing to this entire effort. And I think there's immense scope to really expand these partnerships further. Recently, due to COVID, as you mentioned, we have also exponentially ramped up our digital skilling efforts. So we have the eSkill India platform, which has aggregated about 800 courses with 37 knowledge partners. We don't really want to create it all afresh. We think there's a lot out there which private entities can contribute. So we are aggregating that and making that available through a single platform, and access is being provided to our trainees as well. So these are some of the interventions, and we are looking forward to more constructive partnerships which can help raise the scale and impact of these efforts exponentially.
Incredible to hear about all of the initiatives that NSDC are implementing across India. Thank you for highlighting the great collaboration with some of the Swedish counterparties in the sector skills councils, and also for highlighting the last mile connectivity. Let's just face it, without the skilling component, we will not be able to succeed with all of our ambitious goals in sustainability in other areas. Now, Sarbajit, you are on a mission to upskill 3.5 million engineering students. Could you please share with us how you will go about to succeed with that, and also how this initiative fits into the broader strategic agenda of Larsen and Toubro?
Thank you, Johan. I would like to thank India Unlimited team who are doing this for the 7th time, even under difficult circumstances, but it still makes us reach out around the world in this forum today. So thank you, India Unlimited team. Larsen and Toubro, as Johan mentioned, we are in the business of physical to digital across India and the world. And in this physical to digital skilling, as we heard in a lot of sessions today morning, the technology is going to play a major role. We have been in this business for 80 years. The skills requirements have changed, and we have addressed some of those as Larsen and Toubro addresses the infrastructure needs of India, as well as parts of globe, as well as the digital infrastructure we address for our customers' ecosystem. So one of the things which L&T started way back in 1983 was L&T Institute of Technology. That was only to address L&T's workers or L&T's employees' children into a technical education. That was within Larsen and Toubro's campus in Powai way back in 83. So that has overgrown. Today we have many institutes within L&T which not only addresses L&T's employees and contractors' skilling needs, but also a larger ecosystem. So this is addressed by our L&T Project Management Institute in Pune. We also have L&T's Management Development Center, which in Lonavala, which addresses where a lot of other industries and organizations come in to understand management development skills. And last but not the least, for our contractors who join L&T, be it welders, be it tunneling specialists, be it carpenters, be it electricians, they all are into this ecosystem. What we are now getting into is a portal with all the digital technologies in place, including, I don't want to mention the common names, which is always used, but I would just club all of them under digital. A portal which is accessed by people around India as well as globally. Now, L&T today is over in 300 project sites in the remotest part of India, from Ladakh, where we are making the roads, to Brahmaputra, where we will build the longest bridge, to the bullet train project, which got signed yesterday in between Mumbai and Ahmedabad. There would be skills required, and all the skills are not available. And how do you also skill people in those projects which we do around the country, which always are not in the cities? And that's where this portal would help enhance that you do not have to come to a city to get your skills. At least you are trained on the latest technology, and then you can have the practical experience across the projects which is available near your site. The pandemic has again proved that how you can be local and at the same time global using digital technologies. So this is from L&T EduTech, which will be launched in the first week of January. And this is opened as an ecosystem for all Indians, including, of course, L&T employees.
Sarbajit, for sharing. That's very encouraging, very promising, the work that you're doing. Joel, last but not least, you're fundamentally disrupting the way the world learns through machine learning and artificial intelligence. Could you please share with us what you do at Sana Labs and your future vision for personalized learning at scale? And if you don't mind, can you please help us demystify AI? There's a lot of people talking about AI, but not a lot of people knowing what it actually means. So over to you, Joel. Please enlighten us.
That's a big task. Thank you. But very inspired hearing what everyone here is working on. At Sana Labs, we're focused on applying machine learning to radically improve human learning. So we're a team with backgrounds ranging from Spotify to working on search at Google AI and other advanced analytics projects at BCG Gamma that wants to bring state-of-the-art machine learning to radically improve how we upskill, skill, and reskill our workforce. We partner with some of the world's largest companies like Novartis, Amgen, and others to train their workforce on anything from data science to other internal knowledge. And two more recent examples of how the Sana platform is being used is, the first is upskilling during the pandemic. So we found ourselves in a situation where we had to upskill every single health worker across the world on prevention and treatment of COVID-19. The issue we're having is that every single learner starts at a fundamentally different place. Some nurses already knew 60% of the information, others were struggling in particular areas. What the Sana platform did was that it personalized the content to the individual needs of each nurse. So based on their specific knowledge gaps, we would recommend the right resources until they achieve mastery, really mimicking the experience of a one-to-one tutor at scale. The result of that we've seen to date is that 98% of learners improve their learning through this personalized learning experience. 88% recall it longer, and ultimately that's leading to a net promoter score of 80 in those specific cases. So seeing very promising results of applying machine learning to human learning. And really why artificial intelligence makes sense in this application is the immense complexity both in human knowledge but also in the human brain. So I think one funny example around learning languages is when a Swede is learning English and learning ubiquitous, they'll have to see ubiquitous 15 times. Because ubiquitous is not used in the Swedish language and Q is not used in the Swedish language. Whereas a Swede learning English, learning camera, will only have to see that 2 times. And as we learn, we have millions of these nuances that interact. And to effectively deliver learning, we must model this and then use that to provide a personalized learning experience to every single person. And that brings me to the second use case, where in Sweden, we're working on Swedish for immigrants, where we train immigrants in the Swedish language. Before Sana, every single learner received the exact same book in the exact same way, independent of if you're joining KDH to do your PhD or if you have no prior education. But with Sana, this content became personalized and adapted to your individual needs and your individual pace, and allowed that one-to-one tutoring experience at scale for Swedish for immigrants. So I think already we're seeing very promising results of how machine learning can be applied to create a much more personalized learning experience. And ultimately, as we now have the half-life of skills at 5 years, and 60% of the global workforce that will have to be radically reskilled over the next 5 years, we need much more personalized ways of delivering this. And I'm positive that learning can play a role in.
Well, very, very exciting examples that you brought up. Back to you, Peje, as the co-chair of the skilling within the ISPERT. How do you think that new technologies like the AI learning from Sana Labs and other technologies in Sweden and India can help us collaborate even more in the skilling area?
I think it can help if you can get a better connection with industrial corporations. You should know that the tradition in Sweden is that education has been handled by governments and politicians. In India, lots of corporations are very active in education, has been that for decades. So what we try to do when we are setting up our activities in the Haryana is to get support from Swedish corporations that can come out and help with the skilling. I mentioned some international companies, some of the leading that are also involved in Sweden are Oriflame and Saab. Very important, they get access to help to train people, and they understand how they also can get additional staff that is trained. So I think there you have the artificial intelligence, of course, with the vast development opportunity. I think that could be a catalyst to get more of an increased cooperation between traditional industrial corporations and those involved in skilling.
Thank you so much, Peje. Vandana, I know that NSDC is also focusing on digital skilling and future skills and lots of industry partnerships. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that, please?
Sure. From NSDC, our initial effort was working with NASSCOM, which is the flagship industry body for IT. And they had worked with our team to set up qualifications for 9 disruptive technology, emerging technologies. So about 66 qualifications were created. And those, of course, while they created the competency framework, have been converted into courseware, which is largely now available on online platforms. Our IT SSC has created the Future Skills platform, which is being rolled out to upskill our professionals who are active in the IT industry, which is very large in India, and also other sectors, since IT is now a horizontal sector, really. At NSDC itself, as I mentioned, we have the eSkill India platform, which is really an aggregator of the various offerings available with other B2C portals. There are about 37 partners, ranging from the likes of IBM, Microsoft, to Salesforce and Sailor Academy, and many others. And many of them are located outside India too. So we are always on the lookout for such knowledge partnerships. And we're also helping in the implementation of programs, which are basically in terms of making these courses available to people at scale. So we have partnered with organizations to implement some of these programs. For example, Dell Technologies is funding the American India Foundation, and about 1 lakh youth in and around Bombay area are going to be provided employability and digital skills. so that they become more readily, deployable in a workplace context. So we help bring technology even into an implementation arena, because we have, as I mentioned, about 600, 700 training partners with about 11,000 training centers all over the country. And these are different entities who are running these centers. So it's an ecosystem where a new technology can potentially be piloted, and if it shows a good response, can be scaled up. So that's roughly how I would like to bring out what we are doing. And as I think one thing which is important, which we see, which will be a big game changer, is that on the government programs, which have been a big part of our skilling ecosystem, till now, online learning was really not part of the frameworks because of various reasons. But I think the whole COVID crisis has shifted people's mindsets, and we've realized that there's no getting away from the fact that this has to be embedded in even government programs. So in the government program that is likely to get rolled out soon, there will be provision for giving training online as well. And that, I think, will bring an additional dimension of scale and wider adoption to the use of digital skilling interventions. And just like to also mention, we are also working on various interventions with actors like Better Place, which is an entity based out of Bangalore, who use artificial intelligence to provide a better mapping of people's who have been skilled in our ecosystem, and partnering them with, or rather connecting them to jobs, and also extracting market intelligence for us, which can inform our training programs. We partnered with L&T, who've done a fabulous job on, of course, the business front, and are now taking forward their talent on the EdTech and skill tech area. And they've set up a training academy where we've had online training being delivered to master trainers and trainers. So there is a lot that's happening in terms of the digital space, because it's partly an imperative. And secondly, just the kind of scale India needs is not possible to be done through a brick and mortar kind of model.
Thank you so much, Vandana. Sarbajit, over to you briefly. What have you learned during this pandemic that can help you reach your target of skilling your 3.5 million engineers more quickly post the pandemic?
You know, in the IT industry which I come from, we have been always working offshore on-site models, which is nothing else but remote working. Today, the world is working remotely. We are talking remotely today. So that has made the change for our entire organization of 120,000 people, and also the ecosystem of our contractors to log in digitally. There are courses available which we can learn, and then of course practice it physically within the ecosystem where we can practice. And this has opened up. This is multiplied many times over, if because of the pandemic. Okay, so it is no more than IT. I mean, as Vandana mentioned, IT is a horizontal today. It is truly a horizontal enabler in the different businesses we work on, and our access, our reach out to the society in terms of what we call as corporate social responsibility. But this has been practiced through our ecosystem wherever we have our factories or offices or project sites. How do we work in that ecosystem with the society?
Thank you so much, Sarbajit. We have 5 minutes left of this very exciting panel. We could continue this conversation about skilling all afternoon, but I would now leave to the panelists, a 30-second kind of final message. What do you want to leave the audience with that have tuned in from around the world, from India and Sweden and elsewhere? Let's start with you, Joel, first.
Of course, at Sana, we really believe that the learning is the meta problem. And what we mean by that is that everything starts with learning. So if we can improve how the world learns, we can achieve all of these other goals that we have set for ourselves. Unfortunately, the tools that we have today to deliver learning are one size fits all and disengaging to a large extent. And I believe if we want to meet these goals, we need fundamentally new, much more intelligent and personalized tools. And we're very excited to partner up with companies in this space to deliver reskilling and upskilling at scale. And hopefully that will ultimately have cascade effects in all these industries.
Thank you so much. And we're back to you again, Sarbajit. Any final messages from you to the audience?
I think the mobile phone or the smartphone has changed the way how do we see entertainment or how do we learn, and that reaches every corner of our country today and also world.
Thank you. Vandana.
Well, I think technology has been seen traditionally as a big disruption, job losses, but from a skilling and education space, I think it's a huge enabler. And we, I think, are looking to embrace this opportunity and are keen to partner with organizations from anywhere in the world. And I think given the way we are now virtually connected, it's become far more seamless. We don't need to fly across. We don't need to have workers necessarily move. So there is immense possibility for partnerships to take place to support the skilling agenda, the education learning agenda, and we are happy to take those conversations forward if there are interested actors to do that.
Thank you so much, Vandana. And Peje, you started this whole panel. Last words and key messages from you, Peje?
Last words, about 13, 14 years ago, when I met the then Minister of Education in India and said that I wanted to go with education in India, and they said, no way. Now we are being met with a fantastic support. I have met quite a few ministers of education in the different states and centrally. And that's my message to primarily the Swedish part of this. There is an enormous interest and cooperation from the political side in India when it comes to education. It's not like it is in Sweden. So that could pave the way for much closer cooperation and successful building of better skilling. And as you said, Joel, one size doesn't fit all. That was a traditional educational skilling model. And India is in the forefront to develop new models before Europe.
Thank you so much, Peje. I think one size does not fit all is a great takeaway and conclusion from this great panel. Skilling is a critical foundation for the future of both India and Sweden and the world. And we have to collaborate as nations bilaterally, but also as a world community. Skilling is a prerequisite to help us all thrive in the new normal post the pandemic and reach the goals of the Sustainable Development Goals. And ultimately, skilling will help us as species as we enter into Industry 4.0 and further as we approach singularity somewhere down the line. With that, I would like to thank all of the panelists for their contributions. Thank you, Peje. Thank you, Vandana. Thank you, Sarbajit. And thank you, Joel. I would also like to turn to the audience out there and thank you for your interest in this critical topic. And we hope that we will be able to continue to have this conversation offline. Find us on LinkedIn and please engage with us and we will be happy to continue the conversation. And please do not go anywhere because I know that the next session on healthcare is going to be very, very interesting. Thank you all for your attention. Namaste.